Hey, what's up, everybody? We had NA Regional 3 for the spring split go down. We are officially done with regionals. All that is left is the major as well as the RLCS X championships. So, in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the regional that just went down, the last one of the season. It had upsets, it had terrible admin calls, a whole lot of action, and more. So, let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Lawler here, your inside source for all things Rocket League. Today's video, we're going to be breaking down NA Regional 3. A lot of action to cover. We're going to go from groups into the knockout gauntlet into playoffs. There is something that needs to be discussed in length, so there will be another video out tomorrow talking about a certain thing that happened in the semifinals. We'll get to there when we get there. Obviously, before we get into everything, if you guys could, give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, all that fun stuff. Make sure you guys hit subscribe so you don't miss out on tomorrow's video, which is going to be a spicy one. If you guys have not seen social media yet, let's take a look at the groups right away. We've got Group A, B, C, and D, as you should see somewhere on the side of your screen. You got Version 1, Oxygen, Rogue, Sonics, Volt in Group A. Group B, Space Station, Charlotte, Phoenix, FaZe, Continuum, 72PC. Group C, we got Envy, Shopify, Rebellion. This is the KCP roster that just got re-picked up. Ghost Gaming, Stromboli, and Austin. And then in Group D, Alpine, Energy, G2, Xset, and .exe. Looking at some of the results, you can see pretty much as expected, and some of the teams that have been struggling with consistency, or some of the teams that just have potential, decided to all pop off in groups. First one that comes to surprise, Alpine Esports. 3-1 and also going to 5 against Energy. They still are able to clutch it out due to their game differential. So Alpine bouncing back, having a phenomenal event. On the other side of things, pretty much as expected, with Envy and Shopify being at the top. In Group B, you've got Charlotte, Phoenix, also a team with a ton of potential that's been hit and miss sometimes, deciding to go off as well. Unfortunately, AJ was definitely dealing with some server issues and some ping issues. I think at one point in the lower bracket of the knockout gauntlet, he had like 200 ping the whole day, so some difficulties there for FaZe Clan, and it is showing. Unfortunately for 72PC, the addition of Spider, who actually came from Continuum, has not been going well, while Continuum having some decent results. Go in close series against some of the top dogs, but ultimately not able to close it out. Unfortunate for Kronovi and the crew over there. And then for Group A, three-way tie for first place comes down to game differential. V1 decided they wanted to, after losing to Rogue in a reverse sweep in the first day, decided to pop off in the day that followed. So V1 going to close out that group at the top. Oxygen behind them. Rogue somehow keeping it close against every team. Kind of a weird topsy-turvy. Rolled his magic, not enough for the Sonics. And then Volt just straggling behind. So those are your teams. Those are your high seeds and your low seeds. Let's take a look at the knockout gauntlet in round 2. Up first, winners quarterfinals. Of course, version 1 with a chance to close out the series. They lose game 1 and they get 2 and 3. Have a chance to beat Energy. Move on to day 3. Good vibes. Top 8. No, it's got to go to game 5. They've got to lose and throw the game. Of course, that's what version 1 does. Breaks everybody who is a version 1 fan's heart. Credit to Energy, though, for sticking on and keeping it close. Space Station continuing their dominance as they have been on the grind. They completely overwhelm the former KCP, now Shopify Rebellion, and close it out 3-1. Envy versus Charlotte Phoenix. Out of sight, out of mind for Envy. They absolutely dominate. And then Oxygen versus Alpine. This one I thought was going to be a lot closer because they both have similar play styles. But Oxygen just kind of vibing. Again, former Jamal Jabari squad. A lot of good moments. Game 2 does go to OT with 6+ minutes in 3-2. But other than that, Alpine gets shut out. So Oxygen definitely had the heavy hand and the hot hand. Feeling a little bit more confident, it looks like. And the fact that they qualify 3 uppers makes them in a really good position. It doesn't end short for them, which is pretty cool. We then go down to the lower brackets. We got losers round 1 and loser quarterfinals. And some of these results are all over the place. Ghost Gaming decided to step up huge. Version 1 also, again, if you guys didn't see my video yesterday, I ended up doing a Q&A from you guys in the comments and talking about version 1's inconsistency and some of the difficulties that they have. I would recommend going back and checking out that part. All the questions are segmented through timestamps, so you can find it pretty easily. But yeah, again, it's for some reason with version 1, there's sometimes where they look absolutely god tier and they put up some of the best fights that you see, really controlling of the field, perfect possession control and play, and then all of a sudden it's like they go against a team they're not familiar with and they honestly bet. It's pretty bad. So unfortunate for version 1 there. They do fall short. I will say, though, as a preemptive, while I'm talking about version 1, because I'm not going to talk about them for the rest of the day, they are in a tiebreaker right now for the 9th place spot. For those that don't know, for the teams that go to the major, it is the top 10. You have a wild card bid, and then you have teams 1 through 9 in the standings. Right now, Ghost Gaming and V1 are tied for 9-10, so they'll play in a head-to-head tiebreaker. How that's going to play, when that's going to play out, don't know. We'll find out. You then look at lower round 2 area, G2 versus Sonics. G2 still looking pretty solid, but Jury's having a little bit of complication against the awkwardness and the chaos that is the Rebellion. The broadcast was pretty much a bunch of Star Wars jokes the entire time, and I was actually there for it. It was pretty funny. They end up going to 2 OTs, but just not able to close it out. It did look like G2 is a little bit off on the mark, but again, it's the first time since being with Jury's that they haven't looked like, oh shoot, like they're a pretty good team. Again, Rebellion is a solid roster. They've been trending in a really good direction. So that's just a tough lower round match. Either team could have taken it. 2 OTs in that series as well. For some reason, Rogue decides that they want to wake up in their second day. So they got Rogue versus Xset, which they 3-0. Unfortunate for Xset, who's been trending in a good direction. Kept to only 2 goals throughout the entire series. They move on then to play Charlotte Phoenix, which Rogue is just a more chaotic, faster version of Charlotte Phoenix, in my opinion. Way more aggressive, way more speedy, and Charlotte Phoenix has a hard time holding on. They do get 1 game, though. 3-1 in game 3. Not enough. Rogue does overwhelm. We then drop down to the last one, which is FaZe Clan versus Stromboli. FaZe gets a 3-0 sweep. Stromboli does keep it relatively close. These are the ones that I was talking about where AJ is dealing with a big ping issue. 200 ping at some point, and it really showed in the Alpine game. Despite that, they do keep it relatively close, with the first game being an OT, and they do bounce back with a 1-goal differential in the very last game, winning the 3rd game. 2nd game, though, 2-0 in favor of Alpine. Looking at the series, it definitely felt like AJ was very much so missing. If AJ would have been able to play without a crazy ping, I do think FaZe would have completely overwhelmed Alpine. AJ is pretty much like 90% of their offense, although Gyro has been stepping up a ton, and Illusion has really worked out his position as 3rd man. He's been playing super consistent. AJ is something that they build a team around. Very aggressive, very offensive heavy. AJ is then kind of dished the ball, and he is able to go for freestyles, individual, whatever he wants to do, because he's got the space. And the team focuses very heavily on creating that space for him. Also, when they're under panic, AJ is the guy that goes for those big plays that just bail them out of situations. His defense impeccable, even though Illusion has been kind of the guy on defense as of late. But without that and him dealing with ping, those really important like last second efforts just aren't there because there's a delay. So I do think Alpine probably would have got smacked here. That would have put FaZe up against Space Station, who they probably would have lost to anyway, in my opinion. But unfortunate for FaZe that they fall short here. They definitely need the points to solidify a 5-6 spot for the championships, and it's between them, G2, and I think Rebellion right now anyway. So those points and not obtaining those is actually a pretty big deal. Really unfortunate for FaZe. We now get into the playoffs, the last part of the bracket. You got Energy versus Rogue. Honestly, kind of the best series of the day, in my opinion. I was laying in bed just kind of chilling, watching this one, and it was back and forth. I do think Rogue kind of threw this one away. Energy looked a little bit sluggish at the beginning, and Rogue kept getting faster and faster like they always do. But a ton of mistakes, a ton of opportunities that they just kind of threw away, and you see that in games 5, 6, and 7. 2-1, 2-1, and 1-0. And it just feels like they had a chance to close it out. They would make a mistake. Energy, who plays super consistent, would capitalize. And that's kind of the playstyle difference. There's a lot of conversation about what is this new situation, this new meta that's been talked about between numerous coaches. Rams talking about Queso as the playstyle of the future and blah, blah, blah. But this is kind of a perfect summarization of it. Rogue, super fast, super aggressive, in your face, challenge everything, dictate the match. Energy, although not as fast, are going to be a little bit more methodical, a little bit more patient. They're going to watch the play develop and go to where the positioning is. They are okay with giving up a little bit of possession because they're going to conserve boost and be in a better position to punish you. One is definitely more realistic. In Energy's case, the reason why they're the #1 team in standings and probably one of the most consistent throughout the entire year is because of their playstyle being a little bit more patient and a little bit more methodical, rather than just go, go, go all the time. Reliance on really heavy mechanic focused things. People are human. They do make mistakes. And unless Rogue is playing perfect, that playstyle of just pure dominance isn't always going to happen. It's unrealistic, in my opinion, to play at that level. And I think that's where the conversation of Reddle's saying like Squishy is still playing old meta kind of mentality, and why they're going to fall behind. Energy is playing a playstyle, in my opinion, that is super consistent. It allows them to, even if one person is having an off day, still be extremely competitive towards the top. their peak and their ceiling may not be as high as like a Space Station, as a Rogue, even at times as Envy when they play that way and they really push heavily in the midfield. They still almost every single day will put themselves in a top 4 spot, like guaranteed. So again, I think that's the difference. And in this case, you see Energy's consistency of playstyle, the patient game, and lack of mistakes really punishing Rogue, where they're trying to go for all this flashy high flying stuff. Like Taroko hit the nuttiest double touch I have ever seen, where he takes an air dribble, air rolling the whole time, plays it over another defender backboard, and then just a nasty angle in. Super clean touch. But you can't rely on that every single time. People aren't going to play that clean every single time. But I do still say that Taroko is one of the most underutilized third mans in all of Rocket League. You got to see why. He's cracked. Really good. So Rogue falls short due to a couple of mistakes. I felt like they kind of threw the game away, and Energy capitalized on mistakes. Second game, Oxygen versus Shopify Rebellion. I don't actually know what happened with this one. They came out of the gate swinging 5-0 for Shopify Rebellion, and then just got overwhelmed. Like, Oxygen, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just the fact that it was one of those teams where they're like, hey, we made top 8. We haven't been here before. We've got nothing to lose, nothing but confidence. And they played like it. Lack of hesitation, nothing. Everybody ready to go. Everybody ready to attack, and very, very aggressive. Toasty definitely stole the show in his interview. Very funny talking about the sweat wipes. Funny to see that and him making his interview count. So shoutouts to Oxygen pushing through. It's not a fluke to get into the top 8. They push into the semifinals as well. We then go to Space Station versus Alpine, and this one started back and forth, 2 OTs, trading wins here and there, but eventually got to the point where Space Station really started heated up. There was numerous times where shots and accuracy were a little bit off. You could definitely see it in Redo's body language, where he was unsatisfied with his play, where some of his shots and he's like shaking his head and stuff. But eventually they got the ball rolling. Space Station really kind of found their footing, and people were asking me throughout the entire day while I was doing a watch party, if you guys want to join us for some of these conversations I'm having right now on this video, we do live on my stream. If you would like to continue those conversations, come hang out with us. Twitch.tv/Lawler. We stream every day but Tuesday from like 2 in the afternoon until whenever. So come hang out with us. But people throughout the entire stream were like, yo, who do you think is going to win? Who's going to make it to the semifinals? Okay, if that's who you have, they basically wanted my predictions. And I said, I'll have to find out after I see Envy play who's going to join Energy in the finals. Because after watching the Energy Rogue match, you're like, yeah, Energy's going to make it there. Nobody else in that side of the bracket can beat them. It was between Space Station, Envy, and Energy to go to the finals, in my opinion. What ended up happening was you could see that Space Station, although having a playstyle that's very good, were a little bit inaccurate, and some things weren't going that great. So even though I thought Space Station was probably going to win and make it to the finals based on their recent performances, I finally got to watch the next series, which was Envy versus Ghost Gaming. I personally don't think Ghost Gaming's a top 8 team. I think they've had a good one-off event where they've played pretty well. Consistently scoring goals against Envy, a pretty defensive team, I think is tough to do, where they do get 1 goal every game. They've got 2 OTs. One went 8+ minutes. The other one went 36 seconds in the very last one. But I just think Envy outclasses them in every capacity. They're better on defense. They're better on offense. They're better in the midfield. There was no reason for Envy to lose that, and Envy pretty much had a walk in the park. That is degrading a little bit the performance of Ghost, but I just have not seen Ghost really perform to that level of a top 4 team in quite a while. So this one was pretty assumed that it was going to be Envy and Space Station in the semifinals, which is kind of the topic of everybody's mind. I've got a dedicated video about it tomorrow. I will talk about it in detail in just a sec here. Next semifinals was Energy versus Oxygen. Same situation is Energy and Oxygen, where I'm just like, Energy I think is just a better team overall to Oxygen, but despite that, Oxygen brings it all the way to game 7. It is actually a really good series. Energy starts off 2-0 and both almost 1-goal games. It looked like, I think there was a 0-second goal by Squishy in game 2, I think, to put it up 4-2, I think it was. But otherwise, it's pretty much a 1-goal game. They then get into game 3, and Oxygen wins an OT 135. They then win the game immediately after. And then it's just a back-and-forth affair. It is one and the other, and they're trading blows. I think this was really fun to watch Oxygen put up a fight, tactical timeouts having to be called. And this is what the open qualifier situation is all about. This is the whole point of the circuit-based system, is getting to see some of these teams that normally wouldn't get experience against the top dogs, getting to show their merit. And Oxygen did exactly that. We knew this team had potential. We knew this team could be very deadly. We know this team has the ability to cut rotations and bump a demo and play off ball and play the player rather than the ball itself. And it was exciting to see that go against a top team that is extremely refined and focused on playing clean and as consistent as possible. And you started to get a little bit of gritty, scrappy play from both teams, and eventually evolved to probably one of my favorite series of the weekend. So really good series by Oxygen to put up a fight. Very entertaining throughout the series on both regards. But at the end of the day, veteran status really comes into play here. And Energy knows how to shut it down. Game 7, 4-0. They close it out. What was a nail-biter, 2 OTs in the series. And it felt like it was going to be a lot closer than that. But a lot of one-goal games. So good fight by Oxygen, unfortunately falling short. Energy moves on to the grand finals. Last semifinal, we get Space Station versus Envy. And this one, I don't even know where to begin. I will say I will be providing a lot of information and video content and replay analysis stuff in tomorrow's video to explain the situation. And I'm going to do this briefly because I have a dedicated video about it tomorrow. Envy and Space Station going back and forth. Beginning of the series, my chat's like, who wins? And I'm like, Envy's playing better. Space Station could probably win. We'll see what happens. I firmly believe that Space Station, even though Envy was playing better on an individual level, missed MVP for me. Played out of his mind this weekend. I still think Space Station's playstyle long-term beats Envy, even if Envy is playing better. And that was the case. Space Station was starting to pick up heavy momentum. What ended up happening is, I think it was the end of game 3. Game 3, they go into overtime. At the very beginning, you can see on Sipical's camera, the screen flash, and it shows his monitor going off. He disconnects and just drives straight down on a cheat up. And then they call a timeout. They call a pause. They call an admin help. We need something is going on. And they're basically asking, we need to replay that overtime because Sipical DC'd. The admins made a ruling to not do that because Sipical was removed from the game. Trust me, I will show footage and all that kind of stuff in tomorrow's video, break it down, get into the specifics, show you all the memes from Twitter. It'll be a great video. I'll go into more detail about it then. But that basically put Space Station what it felt like on tilt. Right out of the gate in game 4, missing shots that they should have put away, frustration from all the players and all the teams, all that stuff ends up happening. And despite that, Space Station still brings it to game 7 where they end up losing 2-0 in the very end. And before the last goal can even go in, Reddles leaves early and is probably going to get a fine for leaving early because it screws with the post-match stats at the end of the series. So the series basically feels tainted. It was a really good series. It could have been a fantastic series, one that I think Space Station probably would have won. But because of the admin call and the issues that went around with it, it basically tainted that entire match and made a lot of people feel like, well, this tournament's over. This tournament sucks. So that happens, and we then go into the grand final. Again, more details and specifics and video evidence of that series will be in tomorrow's video. Make sure you tune into that. Grand finals, Energy versus Envy. And ironically enough, after the admin call that basically tips the scales in what feels like Envy's favor, they go on to win it 4-3. Envy does win it back and forth the whole time against NRG. It goes the distance, and they trade wins pretty much the whole way. The deciding factor is there is an overtime in game 5, 2-13, and Envy ends up clutching that one. And then you go to game 7 against Turbo on Champions Field. Of course, Turbo's going to win. Starts off with him at like, I think 420. He, as Wavepunk would say, blazes it into the net and blasts the shot top left off of a phenomenal fake in the corner. And from there, they just kind of go smooth sailing. So Energy did put up a pretty good fight. It goes both ways. Could have pretty much been a coin toss, and it really was. And that's what you get to see. Out of the top teams, Space Station, Rogue, Envy, Energy, G2 when they're feeling it. Any of those teams, it's a coin flip nowadays. And I think that's the exciting thing, even though right now Rocket League feels very mundane and more of the same and regurgitated because no world championships and live events. If you're watching just as a fan of the game and you're viewing it on an individual level, the nice thing is you go into a tournament and you don't really know who's going to win in those final moments because it is truly even, which is really exciting. It's not super one-sided like it has been in the past, where with this one team like BDS just wins every single time. So I think that's kind of a benefit to North America Rocket League, and it helps with the viewership and everything else. So I will say, again, keep your eyes out for tomorrow's video. It is going to be pretty spicy. There's a lot of really funny memes that this community has made, so make sure you check in for at least those. But that is going to wrap it up for this video. That is your NA Regional 3. Let me give you the full name of this ridiculousness. That is the RLCS X Spring Split Lamborghini Open NA Regional Event 3. Yeah, that is the recap for that event. That is going to wrap it up for me. Any questions, comments, concerns down below in the comments? I would love to hear what you guys have to say, what you think about stuff. Again, make sure you tune in tomorrow's video about the admin call that ended up going down and all the details and the specifics of that. I'm waiting a little bit to talk about it just because I want to see if there's any additional stuff that gets posted about it on social media. And while you're down there, if you enjoy the content, thumbs up, subscribe, you know what to do, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.